Ancient Greece, a land of myth and legend, a land of philosophers and poets, but also a land of warriors, and none were more fierce than the Spartans. From this warrior society emerged Leonidas, a king who would become a legend. Born into a dynasty stretching back centuries, Leonidas was, well, destined to rule. But more than that, he was a product of Sparta's brutal training system, the Agoge. This meant a childhood filled with discipline, hardship, and honestly, constant combat training. Only the strongest survived. Leonidas excelled, proving his strength and courage time and again. When he ascended to the throne, he was more than just a king. He was a Spartan warrior through and through. He embodied the core Spartan ideals: duty, courage, and an unwavering loyalty to Sparta. Little did he know, those very qualities would soon be tested like never before. Because far to the east, a storm was brewing. A storm that threatened to engulf all of Greece. Sparta. Even just the name brings to mind images of warriors. Their society was unlike any other in Greece. It was entirely dedicated to the art of war. Life in Sparta was brutal. It was unforgiving. And at the very heart of this warrior culture was the Agoge. Now imagine this, a boy just 7 years old, taken from his family. From that moment on, his life belonged to Sparta. He entered the Agoge, a grueling system designed to forge warriors. What followed were years of brutal training and relentless discipline, all meant to strip away any sign of weakness. These boys endured starvation, beatings, and were taught to fight with unwavering ferocity. Only the strongest, the most resilient, survived. This harsh system created soldiers that were truly unmatched in the ancient world. They were taught to value duty, obedience, and above all else, Sparta. Weakness simply wasn't tolerated. To return home from battle victorious or on your shield, those were the only options. By the 5th century BC, Persia was a giant. Its empire stretched all the way from Egypt to India. Ruled by King Xerxes, a king who honestly saw himself as a god, Persia cast a long, dark shadow over Greece. Xerxes yearned to conquer these divided city-states. He craved vengeance. His father's defeat at Marathon still stung. Greece, a patchwork of independent city-states that were often at odds with one another, must have seemed ripe for conquest. But Xerxes underestimated the Greeks, especially the Spartans. He failed to understand their fierce independence, their unwavering courage. He would soon learn that the Spartans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The clash was inevitable, a clash of civilizations, of ideologies. On one side, the vast Persian Empire, a force that seemed, well, unstoppable. On the other, a scattered collection of small Greek city-states, suddenly united by a common enemy. And right at the heart of this struggle stood Leonidas and his Spartans. Their courage would echo through the ages. Xerxes, the king of kings, surveyed his vast army. 1,000,000 men, it was said, stood ready to march on Greece. He, Xerxes, a descendant of gods, would sweep aside these Greeks. They would tremble before him, they would break. His hubris knew no bounds. He believed himself invincible, chosen by the gods to rule. He had offered the Greeks a choice: submit or face annihilation. He expected them to cower, to beg for mercy. Instead, he received defiance. The Spartans, led by the courageous Leonidas, chose to resist. They would make their stand at a narrow pass called Thermopylae. The Hot Gates, it was called, a fitting name for the inferno that was about to be unleashed. Xerxes, blinded by his arrogance, scoffed at the Spartans. 300 warriors against his mighty army? It would be a massacre. He would teach these Greeks a lesson they would never forget. Imagine a narrow coastal pass, towering cliffs on one side, the Aegean Sea on the other. This was Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. The only road south to Athens and the rest of Greece went through this narrow passage. It was here that Leonidas chose to make his stand. 300 Spartans, the elite of the Spartan army, accompanied him. They knew the odds were impossible, yet they marched with unwavering resolve. Their shields, emblazoned with the lambda, the Spartan symbol, gleamed in the sun. They were prepared to sell their lives dearly. Every Spartan knew their duty: to hold the pass, to break the Persian assault. They were not alone. Hundreds of other Greeks, inspired by the Spartan courage, joined them. Together they would face the Persian onslaught. They would fight for their freedom. They would fight for Greece. For 3 days, the Greeks held. Wave after wave of Persians crashed against their shield wall. Xerxes, watching from his throne, could not believe his eyes. His immortal army was being held back by a handful of Greeks. The Spartans, disciplined and fearless, fought with a ferocity that terrified the Persians. Their spears, longer and heavier than the Persian weapons, skewered the enemy ranks. The narrow pass became a killing ground, but the Persians were relentless. Their numbers seemed endless. On the third day, a traitor revealed a secret path through the mountains. The Persians were now able to outflank the Greeks. Leonidas, aware of the betrayal, knew all was lost. He dismissed most of the Greek allies, ordering them to live and fight another day. He and his 300 Spartans would hold the pass to the very end. The final stand of the 300 Spartans is one of history's most heroic moments. Surrounded, facing certain death, they fought with unparalleled courage. Leonidas, already wounded, urged his men on. He knew their sacrifice would not be in vain. They would buy Greece time to prepare. Their sacrifice at Thermopylae became a symbol of courage, of resistance against insurmountable odds. Though they perished, their bravery resonated throughout Greece. Inspired by their example, the Greek city-states united. They finally defeated the Persians, ensuring the survival of their civilization. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans became legends. Their story, passed down through generations, reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and sacrifice can inspire hope. "Remember us," whispers the wind as it blows through the hot gates. "Remember us."